Hi everyone, welcome back to studyknits. My name's Allie. I'm a resident doctor living in New York City, and this is my channel where I talk all about knitting. Welcome if this is your first time here, and welcome back if you've been here before. This is podcast 20. Exciting. Hit number 20. Feels like some kind of milestone. I don't know like the proper term for it, but it feels like a milestone. I follow a normal podcast format where I talk about like life updates first, and then finished objects, and then works in progress, and then acquisitions, and then I do a little bit of media review at the end. But today, if you guys are okay with it, I'll talk about works in progress first, and then finished objects. I have a lot of finished objects, and most of them are accessories. So if hearing about accessories bores you, maybe just leave after I'm done talking about my only garment finished object. Just a heads up. It's been a while since I recorded a podcast. That's also why I have a lot to talk about. It's been like 2 months. I really didn't think it was that long, but then I was looking back. I was thinking about how many things I had to talk about, and I was like, when was the last time I recorded? It was literally 2 months ago, so I have a lot to talk about. I got a lot of knitting done because I was on vacation, and then now I'm on kind of a chill 2-week rotation. The caveat being that for this week, let's see, today's Wednesday. So this week and next week, I'm on backup. So anytime anybody calls out of a shift, either ahead of schedule or in the middle of a shift for a personal reason, I have to be available at all times to come in and cover the rest of that shift. So far, fingers crossed, like knock on wood, it hasn't happened so far. But I have my Apple Watch on, which I don't normally record with, and I hope that if I get I hope calls will come through as I'm recording. They usually do. So I hope I don't get called in like right now. And in case you're wondering, for those of you that work like normal jobs, usually you get paid like a little extra to be on call, or if you get called in, you paid extra. I get absolutely nothing. Nothing in return. But that's residency. It is what it is. It is certainly imperfect. So yeah. I also had 2 weeks of vacation. I can't remember if I said that. I had 2 weeks of vacation. I mostly stayed here. My mom came and visited for a bit. And then I went to upstate New York for like a day. I was going to go for a weekend, but then we had that giant snowstorm that the whole East Coast got slammed with. That giant snowstorm. And today in New York City is the first day since that snowstorm that has been above freezing. So the snow is like kind of starting to melt, but there are still just piles of snow everywhere. The sidewalks are like half the size that they normally are because there's snow piled up on both sides. The streets are like half the size that they normally are because there's snow, so double parking is difficult. It's not been fun. It's not been fun. Trains have been good though, but it's not been fun. So it's been very, very cold. It's been like it was living in Maine, where it's just been so cold. Last weekend, it felt like -16 outside. I don't know that I've ever felt cold like that before. Very cold. Maybe that's also why I've been knitting so many accessories, because I was like, I need more knitwear accessories because of how cold it is. All right. So with that, I'll get started talking about my works in progress. Let me pull up my Ravelry. I have Ravelry here on my iPad so I don't forget. How many works in progress do I have to talk about? I have 1, 2, 3 works in progress, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 finished objects, but there are some duplicates. There are many duplicates. It won't take that long to get through all 11 of them. Don't worry. And then I also forgot to say, all of the information can be found, for the patterns, can be found in my Ravelry and in the description below. I usually just link my the Ravelry project page that has information about the yarn that I'm using, the needle size, the size that I'm making for myself, and then the pattern info as well. So that's all in the description. If you're confused about anything, feel free to send me a DM. I usually take, honestly, a while to respond. I should stop saying feel free to send me a DM, because sometimes it takes me like months to respond. And someone asks a very legitimate question about a project that I've made, and I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I always say I try to be better. It's just hard. First up, and most exciting, is my Winters Pullover by Ozetta. I have been talking about making this for quite some time, and I finally started it. I am making the size 3. There is quite a bit of positive ease on this. As you can see, this is going to be massive and chunky. This, like I said, is a pattern by Ozetta. It is, I think it's Aran weight. It's Aran weight. It calls for 2 yarns held together. It calls for, let's see, what are there? Eastex, Letlopi, and Einbad. There's no way I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sorry. It calls for 2 yarns. It calls for Eastex, Letlopi, and Einbad. And this is the Einbad. It's a fingering weight, like very thin yarn. And then the Letlopi is like a thicker yarn. They are both, I was gonna say they're unspun, but these are spun. It's just not super treated. It's just like 100%. The Letlopi is 100% wool, and the Einbad is, oh, Einband. There's an extra in. Einband is also 100% wool. This is Icelandic wool. So they're both just like scratchy, like real wool. It's my first time working with both of these yarns. This is the color apricot and this is the color orange. And then I knit up a swatch with just these two, and I didn't love the way that it looked, so I decided to add a mohair, which I think I already talked about on here. So I added a third color. This is the Isayer silk mohair, and this is in the color 63, which I think is citrus. So it's actually, I think it's kind of funny. These are all 3 different colors, and they're all fruit names. This is citrus, this is orange, and this is apricot. They're all fruits, and I love that. And I wanted like a bunch of different orange colors to make this sweater, and I love the color that I've gotten. It's very much like fire, very different colors. The Isayer mohair is, I want to say it's 75% mohair, 25% silk. I really like working with this. It's slightly softer, I feel. No, it's about the same as knitting for all of soft silk mohair. Knitting for all of soft silk mohair simply just did not have a color orange that I wanted. I didn't want, it's okay. I won't get into it. I don't think I have time to get into all of the color selections, but I was very picky about the colors that I wanted. Overall, while I'm talking about the colors, this honestly is still not the dream color that I hoped for. I wanted it to be like a bright, like a fireball orange color, a ball of fire. And this is a little bit more burnt, and I think it's because the thickest yarn is this kind of burnt orange color instead of being a bright color. Like I think if these two were, but then this, see, this is like a little too reddish for what I wanted. I was just being really picky with the colors. Overall though, I'm happy with the color. I really, really like it. I debated when I knit up my swatch, I actually debated not making these or returning some of the yarn, but I'm really, really happy. I have a picture I posted on my Instagram. When the sun hits it, it is just gorgeous. It lights up. It is absolutely gorgeous. When like direct sunlight hits it, you can't really see it here, but it's gorgeous. Okay. Onto the construction. Obviously, as you can tell from the pattern photo, this is a giant, thick turtleneck. It's drop shoulder. There's some short row shaping here on the back. If you've ever knit an Ozetta pattern before, it is knit up just exactly like all of her other drop shoulder patterns. I absolutely love Ozetta and her patterns, and this one is no exception. There's a lot of things that I like about her patterns. Let's see. This is very, very quick to knit up because it's Aran weight. I worked a lot on this. I got a ton done in the first week that I knit this, and then I've been really on just a big accessory kick, kind of like I talked about. I've just really been wanting to de-stash my yarn. So I haven't been picking this up as much, but I've done a good chunk of the body, a couple of centimeters in the round, the whole right sleeve, and then about a third of the way done with the left sleeve. Very satisfying to knit up. It does kind of hurt my hands to knit because the yarn is just so thick and the needles are so thick. So I do find myself wanting to take breaks when knitting this because of how thick the yarn is. Oh, I know one thing I wanted to talk about with Ozetta and her patterns. One of my favorite things about her patterns is that when knitting, like a section, for example, the back section, when you finish the short rows, and usually, back sections will say to knit until it's X number of centimeters, and then you put those on hold, and then you work the front. Ozetta gives the number of rows that you need to knit, and then if you're on matching her gauge, she says how long it should be. I usually end up just knitting the number of rows that I need, and it ends up, you know, usually being longer because usually my row gauge is usually bigger than what the pattern suggests. So that's usually what ends up happening, and I like it. It ends up giving me, no, it doesn't usually end up giving me bigger sleeves. It makes it easier to pick up stitches for the sleeves because most of the time they'll tell you to pick up, you know, 2 out of 3 stitches for the sleeves or 3 out of 4 or every other stitch. And if you have slightly different rows on the front and the back, then your amount of stitches that you pick up is going to be different. And you either have to then adjust the decreases on the sleeve to make it work, or you have to adjust the number of stitches that you pick up to make it work. And so I like that I can keep the same number of stitches, and it makes picking up for the sleeves so much easier. I actually don't think I have anything else to say about this other than the fact that, going back to the yarn, these are all 3 of these are new yarns for me. I have knit I've knit with Eastex yarns before, but it's been for, has it been? Yeah, it's been for someone else. It's not been for me. So this is my first time knitting with these 2, and then obviously with this one. I really like it. I tried this. I tried this on. I was worried it was going to be super, super itchy, but I tried it on when I was put the body stitches on hold to start on the sleeves, and it wasn't that scratchy. Granted, the turtleneck is going to be the real tester, but I knit this sweater. I'm knitting this sweater with the intention of wearing it on incredibly, incredibly cold days to keep me very warm. So we'll see what it's like with the turtleneck. But so far, it's not been that bad on my hand. And when I tried it on, I actually, I think I tried it on and then I sat down to do something else. And I realized that I had the, like, basically the kind of like an unfinished vest on me for like probably 15-20 minutes. And then I took it off. So I didn't even notice it was on my skin. It didn't feel itchy anywhere. It was great. Did I have anything else to say about this? I feel like, I'm thinking, I had something else to say, but I can't remember. Oh well, this was the whole reason I wanted to talk about works in progress first, because I am just really excited about this. It's dating up very quickly, very satisfying, and it's an incredible pattern. As you know, I love Ozetta and her patterns. I have nothing but good things to say about them, and so far this one is no exception, and I cannot wait to have my massive, massive, massive chunky turtleneck. See, this isn't even that scratchy. And it's also different because I feel like even though it is scratchy, I know it is incredibly warm. And so I can put up with it. Okay, so that's that. Another one that should be kind of quick to talk about. I've talked about this pattern many times before on my channel. This is the Berlin Scarf by Suzanne Muller. Boop, boop, boop. Here we go. Berlin Scarf by Suzanne Muller. This is my 4th one now that I've made. I made 2 as gifts and then 1 for myself, and this is another one for myself. I really, really liked the one that I have for me, and so I wanted another one. Plus, I had already bought this yarn to make this scarf, and it's been sitting in my stash for a while, and like I said, I've been really into trying to decrease my stash with products that I'm excited about, and this is certainly one. This yarn, you ask yourself, this is Drops Melody in, give me just a second, I want to say it's like deep light sea green, which is, I think, a great description. It's kind of like a soft light turquoise color. Huge fan, huge fan. This yarn is very thick. I'm only holding it single. And what size needle am I using? I want to say 10.5, 6.5 millimeter, US 10.5, 6.5 millimeter. And this is really just something that I'm knitting on while studying or doing questions because it's very, very mindless. It's just quite literally, like a lot of scarves, it's just a tube. It's gotten a little too big where I can't really take it with me anymore. But before, when it was maybe like up to here, it was this part maybe was so easy just to take with me and just start knitting on it in the round. The whole scarf is worked where you provisionally cast on, knit in the round, and then you go back and you work the fringes afterwards. A lot of people on like Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all sorts of places have expressed frustration with doing the fringes. And I completely understand. It's tedious. It takes maybe, I want to say all these fringes took me a total of like 2 to 3 hours. It's tedious. It's not super fun. It's satisfying, but it's not the most fun thing to do. What I did is knit a little bit, put these on hold right here, went back, picked up the stitches here, knit a little bit more, and then worked the fringes. And now I'm finishing the rest of the scarf here. I think I have 5, and this is my 4th, so I'm almost done. I like doing the fringes in 2 parts, so doing these fringes and then finishing here for 2 reasons. It avoids like the second sock, second sleeve, second set of fringes syndrome, where you do one set, you feel satisfied, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's done, I did it, and then you're like, but now I have to do the exact same thing again. It avoids that by splitting it up and doing it halfway through and then doing the other set at the end. And 2, it allows you to measure exactly how much yarn you need for these fringes. She gives an estimation in the pattern, but because yarns are different, gauges are different, everything is slightly different, it's nice to know exactly how much it takes. So I think these took 13 grams for this set of fringes. So now I know that I can just knit until I have, to be safe, probably like 18 or so grams of yarn left. And then I can just stop and then knit the other set of fringes. And then I'll have just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of yarn left. And it allows me to maximize the amount of yarn that I use in the scarf and minimize the amount of yarn left over at my stash is my goal. But this is a very nice, very easy project. I enjoy this and I enjoy wearing mine. I don't know how long this is going to be. I mentioned with my other one, I knit it using brushed alpaca silk, and it's too long. Like when I wear it around my neck, the fringes touch the bottom of the ground without wrapping it around my neck. And that's a little too long. The New York City streets are nasty. The subways are nasty. I do not want my precious hand knits touching the ground. So I hope this one's a little bit shorter. That's all I have to say about this. Okay, and then my last work in progress, I'm gonna put this work in progress on hold until I talk about the finished object that relates to it. If you guys are okay with that, I know I'm going very out of order, but it makes sense. It'll make sense. Okay, so this is on hold. Okay, it's on hold. Now I'll talk about my finished objects, and then I'll insert that little work in progress in when we get there. I'll talk about my finished objects, starting with the most exciting first, which I do not have with me, but I had the forethought to make B-roll for it, so I will insert the B-roll. It is my Moby Sweater by Petite Knit. I made it for my mom. It was supposed to be finished in May. That obviously didn't happen, and so then it became a Christmas gift for her. I used the yarn I used was Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino in Limestone, which she picked out. Gorgeous, gorgeous color, a whitish, grayish, greenish color. Gorgeous. She loves her sweater. What did I use? I made the size large for her. I used a 4mm needle for the body, and then I want to say like 3.5 for the ribbing and the cuffs. And how much did I use? I used 10.16 skeins. That's about 508 grams of yarn. So I used a lot. I bought 11 skeins, so I had a little bit left over, and I'll get into later what I made with it. But yeah, I in my last podcast, if you remember, I messed up on the second sleeve. Well, let me back up a little bit more. I started this in May because my mom told me she told me kind of, no shade, she told me like a little last minute that she wanted a sweater for a trip we were going on. I tried to make it in time. I didn't finish it in time, so I put it aside, did summer knitting, spring knitting, picked it back up in December. And because it's such a beautiful, it's a cabled pattern, I kind of like forgot how to do the pattern. and like the repeats, and I thought that I would remember it. I did the moss stitch wrong. It's supposed to be double moss stitch, so 2 knits stacked on top of each other, and then 2 purls stacked on top of each other, and then 2 knits. And I did single moss stitch, and I did like half of a sleeve before I realized it was wrong. So I had to rip out the whole sleeve. Redid the whole sleeve with no issues. I did the neck, did the body. All in all, to finish it, it took me like a month. It took me like a month to finish. Very satisfying to knit up, very fun. I really enjoyed it. I will say though, I'm glad I made this for my mom. My mom specifically wanted a cabled sweater. I sent her a couple of options. She picked the Moby Sweater. I tried hers on when I'd finished it, just, you know, like as one does, and to film B-roll. I tried it on, and I was just looking at it. I didn't love the way it fit on me. I think if I were to make it for myself, I would maybe make a size smaller, and I wouldn't have made it so long. My mom wanted it to be a little longer. But all in all, I didn't feel like the neck was flattering on me, the sleeves were flattering. I overall just didn't love it on me. My mom loves it. It's a great pattern. I enjoyed making it. The cables are gorgeous. The like crisscross in the front is gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous pattern. But I just tried it on and I was like, I don't love this on me. Which I think is good for me to know, because I was considering making one for myself, and I don't think I'll make one for myself. If I do, and I don't even know I don't have it with me, so I can't try it on again and be like, what exactly was wrong with it? It also could have been the color. I didn't like the color on me. But yeah, I tried it on and I was like, oh, glad this isn't for me, because I would have been disappointed. I think it was also the drape. It was like weirdly stiff. No. And another thing. This ties in very well to what I was talking about earlier with the Ozetta patterns and picking up stitches for the sleeves. I always struggle when picking up stitches for any kind of sleeve or neck or like arm cuff, anything with a petite knit pattern. I always struggle to get the right number of stitches, and I always want to get the correct number of stitches when knitting a pattern, because I want it to have the same shape and the same look. With the Moby Sweater, I had to pick up a crazy ratio of stitches. I ended up picking up at a ratio a lot less than what was suggested in the pattern. And I think the sleeves might have been like a little too small proportionally for the body. I think maybe that's what my issue was. And then they didn't stretch super well. So basically what I think I need to start doing is one of two things. Either adjust my body, the yoke length, adjust the yoke length based on my personal gauge, or adjust the number of stitches that are picked up and then along for the sleeve based on, don't pick up the exact number of stitches they say to pick up with the ratio that they say to pick up, or calculate, you know, whatever ratio it's supposed to be. That way I'll end up getting the same look. I think adjusting the yoke would be easier, especially in a stockinette pattern. Okay, I'm watching it on my iPad, the same B-roll that has been up. And I think it is just the length. It's just not a flattering sweater length on me. And I do think the sleeves are a little too small. So I think my analysis is right. And also, like, I think also I didn't pull my hair out of the sweater that much. Yeah, I think it's the color, the length of the sweater, and then the sleeves are just a little too small. Okay, so I feel good about my analysis of it. It's, looking back at this B-roll right now, it's not as bad as I remembered. I'm gonna stop perseverating. Okay, I'm gonna move on. With the leftover yarn for the Moby Sweater, I had, if you'll remember, I had 3/4 of a skein left of the Knitting for Olive heavy merino in limestone. And I texted my mom and I said, I have leftover yarn for your sweater. I have enough for either a ear warmer / headband or a pair of fingerless gloves. And she said she wanted a headband, ear warmer. So I made her a weekend headband, which is also patterned by Petite Knit. I made her a weekend headband using the leftover yarn, and I ended up using almost all of it. I then got on a weekend headband kick and I made another one immediately after. So I have this one to show you. So I will talk about them at the exact same time. Both weekend headbands, both by pattern is by Petite Knit. It's a great like double-sided headband. It has some double knitting to shape the folds so it doesn't get twisted or anything. You can see it. You can see it here. It wants to fold, it wants to pucker. The one I made for my mom, I made the size small. I used about 37 grams of the Knitting for All of Heavy Merino. I used a 3.5 millimeter needle for both of them. And then this one here is the size medium. I made it for my fiance. This is the leftover yarn from his dad's sweater by Emily Curtis that I finished a couple of months ago for him. So this is the second one of his that I've made. Like I've made him another one of these before. He likes them a lot. He takes them on runs. And so I said, do you want another one? And he said, sure. So both of these took me, they each took like one evening to finish. The cast on and bind off is a little tedious, but it's a really nice result and it's stretchy. I will show you this one because this, like most patterns that are like folded in on themselves, has like a nice outside and then an inside that never really sees the light of day. So you can use, if you don't have enough yarn to make a whole one, if you have slightly over half of the yarn required to make one, you can just use random yarn on the inside. So here is like a little bit of leftover Knitting for All of Heavy Merino in limestone, and then here is a little bit of leftover Heavy Merino in Bordeaux. I mean, it's kind of like it's a cool look anyways on the outside. I don't think I would wear it like this just because my grafting is kind of messy. On purpose. I was like, all it needs to be is just stretchy and no one's gonna see it. So it looks ugly and that doesn't bother me. I used slightly more, obviously it's a size medium, I used slightly more for this one. 42 grams of yarn for this one versus 37. So slightly more. I don't have one of these, but I started wearing, 'cause it was so cold going to work. And as I mentioned before, I'm not a huge hat person. I started wearing this one underneath, and I would put my hood up over on my like puffer jacket. It was really nice. This is slightly too big for me, so I need to make one for myself. I have enough of this Bordeaux left to make one for myself, and I think it'll be a nice color that'll go with a lot. So at some point soon, I will be making another one of these for myself. Great pattern. You probably could just make this without a pattern, but I really like having the structure of a pattern. I really like when someone tells me what to do with the stitches and with the knitting. But you could definitely make something similar to this without using a pattern. I'm also sure there's a ton of free patterns out there, but I already had this one in my library, so I just made it. So I'll make one for myself, but either way, great stash busting project because you can just use random scraps of yarn. Another kind of a garment. Now we're getting into things that I talked about in my everything I knit in 2025, because these are now things that I finished in 2025. I'm going so out of order. I'm so sorry. So these are things I finished in 2025. I made 2 Edinburgh dog sweaters for my dog and then my fiance's family dog. I spent Christmas with them this year. I used, Loops and Threads Soft Classics in the color Leaf Green. This is my dog. This is Mary Jane's sweater. Has a little opening for a leash. I need to add some elastic in here because this neck is getting stretched out. This is an incredible pattern. It's free by Calico Radio Knits. And very quick to knit up. This took me 2 days. And then the other one, that dog is smaller, so it took me like a day and a half. Very quick to knit up, very satisfying. Good instructions for how to shape it for your dog. And in addition, she has a YouTube video online that walks you through like every single step of how to do this. So I was confused at one part for a second. I just pulled up the YouTube video and she showed me exactly what to do. There is no picking up stitches. It's just knit all in one go. And I love that. It was really great. The only thing I would maybe consider adding some armholes if I were to make this again. just to add, not armholes, there are obviously armholes, but to add little sleeves. She also has another pattern on her page. I can't remember what it's called, but it's another dog sweater with little sleeves. Let me check and see if that one's also free and tell you what it's called. Oh, she only has 2 patterns. The Portland Raglan dog sweater is also free. That one, sorry, let me see here what you can see. That one is DK weight, and I think the Edinburgh seamless dog sweater is worsted. Yeah, so these were fun to make. This is an Aran weight yarn. Wait, let me double check and make sure I'm not lying to you. Yeah, it's an Aran weight yarn. It is mostly acrylic. If not, it is 100% acrylic. Very, very cheap. A total of $2 or $3 for like 100 grams of it. It's pilling, as you can see, it's pilling quite a bit, but that's okay. Does Mary like it? No, Mary hates clothes. She hates putting on any kind of clothes. Has always hated putting on clothes. But it has been so cold here in New York City that we have to put a sweater on her to go outside and her jacket on. And she still will go outside and her little legs will be all like shaky. And she'll want to come back in very, very quickly. It has been so cold. So no, she doesn't love her sweater. We don't really keep it on her in the house, because our house is a nice temperature and she doesn't like it. But I have some pictures of her wearing it. She looks very cute. She's a very cute little dog. So that's it. For hers, I made the size large. I think she technically fit in XL, which is crazy. She technically fit in XL, but this was Aran, so I just made the size large and just adjusted it. This one was 124 grams, and the other one I made was a medium, and it was 74 grams. So I used all of the yarn, which is incredible. Freed up some space in my bins under my bed to store all of my yarn. So those are those two. See, I told you lots of twofers, lots of 2 patterns in one. Moving on, something else exciting. This I did talk about as a WIP in my last podcast, and I did finally finish it. It's a Christmas present. It was a Christmas present for my fiance's mother. She specifically requested it, and it was a reasonable request, so I complied. It was Le Bandana by Amy Gilles. I used Kelborn Woolens Scout in Graphite Heather. And about this yarn, that yarn is DK, it's 100% wool, and it was an incredible yarn. And this is where this comes in, because this is what I'm using with the leftover yarn. So maybe now you understand. This is it wound up. I loved working with this yarn. I bought this from Argyle Yarn Store in Brooklyn. Incredible yarn store. If you're in the area, check it out. If you find yourself, if you're a tourist or you live here, you find yourself in Brooklyn, go to Argyle Yarn Store. They have incredible yarns, and I love the way that their whole store is laid out. Incredible. So I bought this there. This is it. It's very loosely plied, I would say, but I really like it. It's very, very soft for 100% wool. Very soft, very warm. This pattern, I want to say, because this yarn is DK and the pattern called for sport weight. So I just knit it using a smaller needle. I wanted to get a tight gauge. And because it's so loosely plied, it was able to squeeze into a tight gauge. So I used a 3.5mm needle for it. Wasn't sure how big I wanted to make it. I knew I didn't want to use all of my yarn on it. I bought 2 skeins. So I bought 200 grams of yarn. And I knew I didn't want to use all 200 on it because that would have made it so big. And I knew that I needed more than 100 because it would have been too small. So I just kind of knit until I felt like it was right. And then I decreased. So I ended up with 100 stitches on my needle, and then I decreased. And I used 134 grams. So now I have about like 70 something grams left. When it was rolling a little bit, the edges were, as it does with like anything that's purely stockinette with no ribbing at the edges, but it was able to be blocked out. I blocked it and it looked very, very nice post blocking. And I also had the forethought to take some B-roll of it. So I really, really liked that pattern. I really, really enjoyed making it. It was very fun to knit up, and this yarn is incredible to work with. I will be purchasing more of this yarn at some point. Not now, because I have I'm trying to make room in my stash, not add to it. What else about the bandana? Yeah, the ends I just made kind of tight. I think I was just knitting a little too tight. And probably knitting with a tighter gauge isn't a great idea with stockinette anyways, because it'll probably roll more. It doesn't matter. It turned out really well, and she loves it. She has told me, she's told my fiance several times that she loves it a lot and she wears it a lot and she gets a lot more compliments. And she recently told me that she wants more of them in brighter colors. So this pattern project, very well received by the recipient. And that feels good. That feels good for me. Okay, now we can talk about my last work in progress. I'm so all over the place, I'm sorry. Using the rest of this yarn, I'm making another bandana, a different bandana. I wanted to try out another pattern. So I started another bandana. This is the EASYPEASY Bandana by Suzanne Muller. This is free. Very exciting. It's a free pattern. Very simple. Very, very simple. Oh, I can tell you about it because, oh, I stopped in the middle of a row. Let me finish it while I talk. Very, very simple. It's literally you just knit stockinette and then you like yarn over at the beginning and then you knit the yarn over through the back loop on the way back. And that is the entire scarf. And then you just decrease. Let me show you this. I started this today. I'm using a 4mm needle, so slightly bigger. The needle size for Scout is, I want to say like 4.5. No. 3.75 to 4.5. So I'm like right in the middle. I didn't want it to be too gaping because it's still going to be a bandana. Oh, I wish I had the other one here so that I could compare the gauge for you guys, but oh well. But what I did, as with all triangular patterns that you knit from like end to end, it's just so easy to use up the exact right amount of yarn. Or is it? I'll get to that in a second. I'll get to that later. Because you can just wind up, I mean, this is the leftover of the half. You can wind up half and then this is the other half. So I know once I finish this, it's time to start decreasing and I'll use all of this to decrease. But I had meetings this morning and I worked on this maybe a total of like 2 hours. Really not that long, and I literally started it this morning and I am almost halfway done with it. So this is very, very speedy. The bandana has a little bit more shaping on the ends. You can see just how much this is rolling. So there's a little bit more shaping on the ends of the lub bandana, and then this there is absolutely no shaping or no like edge work, I guess, not shaping, like edge detailing, edge stitch at all. It's literally just stockinette. I'm hoping it'll block out, but I'm honestly not that invested in this because look, it's gonna be like a small bandana. It's only gonna be, I'm almost halfway done. This is basically half of it. It's gonna be a small bandana. I'm hoping it'll block out. But this is for me, it's not for anybody else. But I considered making some other bandana. There's some other bandanas that I have my eye on. But I went with this one because it seemed very simple, very basic, and it was free. So there's others that I'm considering in my stash busting journey because I feel like a bandana is a great way to stash bust. For all the reasons that I mentioned where you should triangular, you should half and half. But yeah, the stitch is gorgeous. I love that it's heathered. It's so soft to feel. I really, really like this yarn. This is like what a happy discovery of yarn. I was just walking around the yarn store looking for a yarn that was kind of sport DK-ish in the color that I wanted. And I saw this one and I'm so happy that I found it because I really, 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 really like this. I really, really like this yarn. If you can't tell, I really like this yarn. So yeah, I'll probably finish this next week. I have like, Wednesday meetings every Wednesday and I usually take my knitting. And if this is what I was able to accomplish in Wednesday meetings today, I'm thinking next Wednesday I get the rest of it done, knock it out. That's what I'm thinking. Next, chronologically, now we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 finished objects to get through, but 2, 3 of them are repeats. Okay, next up, this is the Harris hood. This is like a little surprise project. The Harris hood by Cheryl Mokhtari. This is obviously a very simple balaclava. I knit this using, what did I use? Oh, Malabriga Rios. Malabrigo. I can't read. Malabrigo Rios yarn. This is the color Ivory. This yarn is a, what is it? Worsted, and it's superwash. 100% wool merino. I think it's superwash. I can't believe it's not superwash. It doesn't say it's superwash. Very soft. I like it. I have leftover in the skein. I also took a video of this while it was in the hank because I really like looking at yarns when they're in the hank. I think it's so much prettier. So I took a video of it and I'll put that in there. But this is it wound up in a cake. One day, you know, when you just like get the idea in your head, you're like, I want this very specific thing in this very specific color and I need it now. Unfortunately for me, that's usually sweaters. And that usually takes a while and then the motivation dwindles and all that stuff. I love when it happens to me and it's something that I can make in a couple of days. So I saw, what was it? I saw this girl at a place that I was studying and she had this tiny little balaclava that she just like threw on over her, just like threw it on. It was so tiny, it came straight out of her bag. And I saw it and I was like, I want one like that. I have a balaclava. I really like it. It's really cute. The color's not super versatile. I don't find myself reaching for it a lot just because of the color. And the neck is really, really, really long. And so it kind of bunches up. It's weird. It looks weird because the neck bunches up. So I knew I wanted a balaclava that was very, very simple, stock knit, and had a tiny little neck. And so that's this. Here, I'll put it on for you. Here we go. This is it. It's so cute. I love it. How much yarn did I use? I used 120 grams. I used a 4mm needle for most of it. I want to say I adjusted the size needle that I used so that I could meet gauge, but I didn't gauge swatch. I just started making it. Took me 2 days to make, flew through it. This yarn is very soft. I do have some things to say about it. I'll talk about the fit first while I have it on, and then I'll take it off, and then I'll talk without a balaclava on. Okay, so it's a little bit too gapey. That I feel like when I get a gust of wind, it just blows right in, and it's just a little bit too gapey. If I were to make it again, I would go down a needle size. That brings me to my second point. And now I'll take it off. That brings me to my second point, which is it unfortunately is not as warm as I'd hoped it would be. This yarn is very soft and it's very nice, but it is just not as warm as I hoped it would be. This could be solved one of two ways. Knitting it with a tighter gauge, less air in between the stitches, less air that blows through, or a strand of mohair could really warm this up. But overall, I've worn it a lot. I'm quite happy with it. It was a very speedy, very quick project, very, very simple. And I don't think I talked enough about this yarn in the variegation. It's with the cream color with the little bits of like pinkish coral in it. I really, really like this yarn. I also bought this yarn on a separate trip to Argyle Yarn Store. I went with the intention because I was feeling so impulsive about making this that I didn't want to look online for yarn. I didn't want to like order something. I wanted to go in person to the store and purchase something and start making it that night. And that is exactly what I did with this. So yeah, love that yarn store. Love that yarn store. I think that's all I have to say about this. Very speedy. I would make more, with the caveat being I don't know that I want more. I wanted a very simple staple balaclava that I could just wear with everything. The only other color I might make is like a dark gray. But this really accomplishes most of what I wanted it to accomplish. So that's that. I think that segues nicely to another finished object. Which segues nicely to another one. This is good. I have a nice flow now. And that is another Sophie Scarf. This is a pattern by Petite Knit, very, very popular. I recently discovered that I like them after having the pattern in my library for quite some time. I made one a couple of years ago as a gift, but never really thought that I could get into wearing them. And I decided a couple months ago that I wanted to make one just to use up some yarn. And I wear this all the time. I wear them all the time. I love them, and now I want more because they're great for stash busting. They're great for adding little pops of color. They are so much easier to manage than a scarf. Like if I'm wearing a nice puffy jacket, but I want my neck to be warm, I can just tie this around it. My neck stays warm, and then I untie it when I get to my destination, or I leave it on and I feel very chic. So that's that. This ties in nicely because I also got this yarn from Argyle. Let's see. What is this? This is Luminous Brooklyn Solar Sock in the color Lucky in Love. It is a sock, like fingering weight yarn, and I held it double. What's the composition of it? It's 100% merino wool, and then no, I just read the right number, and I said the wrong thing. It's 75% merino and 25% like nylon polyamide. I love it. I love the color. If you are like astute and you remember my last podcast, you're like, Allie, don't you already have a red Sophie scarf? And you're right, I do already have a red Sophie scarf. That one got felted because it got very dirty and it had to be cleaned to the point where it was felted, but now it's at least clean. So I wanted an unfelted one just to have. So I have this. How much did I use? I used about 58 grams, and I made the size large. So this is the bigger of the two sizes. It took me a couple of days to make, but overall, like, I love this pattern. It's so easy, so quick, so simple, and so chic. So chic. Let me put it on for you. Oh, so chic. Oh, it goes, I never even told you what I was wearing. Rude. This is sweater number 26. By My Favorite Things Knitwear. Knit with La Droguerie or Naturel. It's a fingering weight yarn, held double to make it DK. One of my favorite things I've ever made. And I feel like it looks very cute with this. How do I look? Oh, I can't see myself in the mirror. How do I look? Oh wait, yeah, that's such a cute look together. Oh. I just love these. I love them so much. I feel so chic. I feel at the same time like it can feel chic, and then it can also feel kind of like campy outdoorsy. I love it. Or you can just tie it around like this. I am like so late to the Sophie Scarf. So late to the Sophie Scarf party. I feel like these were big. Oh, I want to say my first year of med school. So that's like 4 or 5 years ago that these were big and the pattern came out, and I'm just now jumping on board, and that's okay. Huge fan. Expect to see more of these from me, either in fun colors that I've purchased yarn for or stash busting. Okay. Don't think I have anything else to say about that. Nothing else to say, and it transitions so nicely to another finished object. Can you guess where this yarn came from? This is a pair of penny gloves, and which transitions nicely to another finished object, which is another pair of penny gloves. I made 2 pairs of penny gloves. I love these. I already have a pair of penny gloves. I wear them all the time. One of my favorite things that I've ever made. Super satisfying to knit up, super quick to knit up, and I wear them all the time. I reach for them almost every single day. I knit these. Let's see, let's talk about these. These are for me. These are for my fiance. These are knit in the penny gloves are another pattern by Petite Knit. I love Petite Knit accessories. I feel like I knit so many Petite Knit accessories, and they're just good accessories. Okay, penny gloves by Petite Knit. These are for me. Mary, did you come to say hi? Hello. Come say hi. Come say hi to everyone. Mary's here to say hi, guys. Come closer. You missed me talking about your sweater. Yes, I already talked about. Oh, Mary. I already talked about your sweater. Can you guys see her? Say hi. Say hi. Okay. Hope the angle's still good. Stinky. Okay. penny gloves. I love petite knit accessories. Call me crazy. These are knit using my leftover Luminous Brooklyn Solar Sock in Lucky in Love, and then I had some leftover knitting for all of Soft Silk Mohair in Red Currant, I want to say. Yeah, Red Currant that I held it with. A very good match. I'm impressed with how well they look together. You can see they look very well together. And I will put them on for you. I'll probably just put this one on. Oh, gorgeous, gorgeous. How much? What size? I used a 3mm needle for these. Oh, gorgeous. The pattern calls for the wrist portion to be a lot longer. I made this one shorter. How was it? About 7 centimeters before I started working everything else. And then everything else is pretty much a pattern. I'm gonna talk about the yarn for them. I made them both of these the exact same way. So these are for me. I forgot that my fiance said that he said that he wanted a pair of fingerless gloves. And so I started making these for myself. And I was like, he was like, what are you making? And I was like, I'm making some fingerless gloves. And he was like, are they for me? And I was like, oh, no, they're for me. I forgot you wanted some, but don't worry, I'll make you some. And so then I was pulling out all my yarn options for him, and he picked this, which is Knit Picks Stroll in the color Cobblestone Heather. This is fingering weight yarn, but I held it double. I didn't have any good mohair to hold with it, so I just held it double. So it's a little thicker. And I think it works out well because his hands are a little bit bigger than mine, or a lot bigger than mine, and so the gauge ended up being a lot bigger. And so you can tell they're a lot bigger on me than the other ones, even though these are also knit with 3mm needles. So here are his. This yarn is held double. Yeah, this is a lot bigger on. This is a lot bigger on me. These do not fit me, but they fit him. I also used a 3mm needle, and I used about 54 grams, so basically a whole skein of Cobblestone Heather. I love stash busting. So satisfying. And it feels like it's like girl math. It's like I didn't even really spend money on the project. Girl math. Okay, so a couple of things I did for these, because this is obviously not my first time making them. Changes that I made 2 big changes from the other penny gloves that I'd made. First one, I cast on super loosely. Like super loosely. Look at that stretch. I'll hold up one of each. Okay. Look at that stretch. So loosely. Look at that stretch. Look at that stretch. I cast on so loosely, and I bound off as loosely as I could. Like, look at that. Stretchy, 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 especially on the fingers. Oh, this one's not so much. I think this one's better. It's a little bit better. I bound off so loosely. I found on my penny gloves that I have now, the bind off at the top is a little tight. And so if I'm reaching for something, especially it's actually worse if I'm like holding my phone and I'm holding it like this and I'm trying to do flashcards on my phone in the subway, which is really the only time I have this problem. I'm holding it and I can't like get my entire hand around the phone, and I can't move my thumb in to get the phone to like tap flashcards. So I made sure to bind off very loosely so that I could be able to hold my phone. And I used a different bind off on these than the other ones. It's my new go-to bind off for bind off like knitwise. It is, I have a YouTube video, the YouTube video that I use linked in the description of the penny gloves and the other projects that I've used it on, because it is great. It's literally just knit 2 together through the back loop and then slip it back on the needle, and then knit 2 through the back loop and then slip it back on the needle, and then knit 2 through the back loop and then slip it back on the needle. And I just made sure to do that very, very loosely. All right. Those are the penny gloves. All in all, they took a couple of days to make because I was busy. I was working like a string of nights. So I was literally just like sleeping all day and then waking up and having like maybe 30 minutes of knitting time and then going to work. So that's those. And I think that leads me to my very, very last finished object, which is a brand new finished object. I finished it. Ooh. Oh, there's the yarn. I was going to show you the yarn. I was going to show you the mohair and the... This is all I have left of the Luminous Brooklyn, the Solar Sock. I have a lot of the current left, but they match so well. So cute. I think I'll just save this and use it as like pops of color and things. I don't know what I'll do with it. It's really not that much. Okay, there's that. Okay, brings me to my last finished object, which is something that I have not talked about for quite some time. It is my solo scarf by Kadri, that I've been working on for, not been working on for a while. I started it a while ago, put it to the side, and then decided to pick it back up. To catch you up on the last time, well, I guess basics, what did I use? I used WIP Winters MC Ingredients in the color Autumn Blast. It's fingering weight, what is the composition? 80% merino, 10% cashmere goat, 10% nylon polyamide. This yarn was gifted to me by my fiance's cousin, who's also a knitter. She gave it to me on the first Christmas that I spent with them, which was a very, very sweet gift. Felt very loved. And I finally got around to making something with it. Okay, as you can see, it's fully gradient, so it starts off with this like nice green here, and then it transitions into this brown, and then it transitions into purple. And we'll get into the end later. Don't look too closely down here. We'll talk about it later. I used a 3.5mm needle, and like I talked about with triangular scarves or shawls or whatever you want to call it, I wound up exactly half of the yarn and then exactly half of the yarn in 2 separate balls and just knit half until I got to the halfway and then started decreasing. When I last was talking about this, I was talking about how I thought it was going to be a weird length, a weirdly shaped length scarf / shawl. It was going to be too big to be like a neck scarf or a bandana, but too small to be an actual shawl or scarf. And people gave me some incredible suggestions, including decreasing at a slower rate so that the triangle point isn't as big, knitting like a trapezoidal shawl, which was a great idea, knitting an off-centered one so that you work like to the point like here, then you decrease rapidly. People had some incredible ideas the last time I talked about this. And then I put it on hold, I think because I needed the needle to make the interchangeable needle to make another project that I decided I wanted to work on more. And it's been on a holder since then. Until today's Wednesday, I had half of this done. I was like here at this point in the whole thing, right? So like slightly more than halfway done. And on Monday, I had like an all-day orientation session that I knew was just going to be sitting and listening to people talk. And I didn't have a great project to bring with me. And then I decided, I was like, I'm just going to finish this. So I just finished it according to pattern. Despite people giving great ideas, I decided I wasn't invested enough in this that I wanted it to be absolutely perfect. So I was like, I'm just going to finish it as it's in the pattern. Okay, so I work on it all day during those meetings or whatever. And I get home and I'm looking at it and I'm working on it a little bit more. And I was like, I think I'm gonna run out of yarn. And you're looking at it and you're like, I don't think I'm gonna get out of this one. I think I'm gonna run out of yarn. And I did in fact run out of yarn. And you can see, so let me tell you like first what I decided to do. I was weighing my options. I was like, I could buy yarn that's like this color. I don't have any yarn that's already this color. But I could buy yarn. I could try to dye yarn myself to match. And then I was like, well, I have this Filcolana Arwetta in the color Dijon Heather left over from a project. And it looks pretty similar to this. Like if this was the ending bit, you wouldn't even be able to tell. I was like, I think I'm just going to use it and just have a weird end. And that's what I did last night. I literally finished it last night. Pretty similar weight. It's a little thinner, you can tell. But I was like, I don't really care. The thing that I regret is I did end up running out of yarn, but as you can see, starting about here, I was decreasing a ton. I was decreasing in the middle. You can see it's kind of puckering here. I was decreasing in the middle. I was decreasing on both sides. I decreased a lot here. And so because of that, it doesn't have the nice uniform increase of this. But like I said, I'm really not invested enough in this scarf or shawl that I decided I wanted to go back and redo it. So I'm just going to I'm going to block it out the best that I can, and we're going to call it a day. I did kind of try it on. I think it looks cute, like kind of like this, and then I can just tie it I can just tie it once like this, and I think it looks really cute. I also tried like this with the brown in the front, which I like. I think this looks cute. So all in all, I don't think it's going to end up being a weird shape. The caveat is that, as you can tell, this is, I don't even know what you call this. This is just like textured stripes. So it's, you know, a couple of rows of stockinette and then a couple of rows of reverse stockinette, and stockinette and then reverse stockinette. So you get these cool stripes, but right, like you can see, it's gonna stretch a ton with blocking. So I hate that I'm talking about it now as a finished object without blocking it, but I simply didn't have time to block it. I literally finished this last night at like midnight. I simply didn't have time to block it. I simply just did not have time to block it before filming this. So my plan, I'll block it honestly probably like right now when I'm done filming this. I'll block it and then I'll briefly touch on it when I make my next podcast. Talk about it as a finished object with the blocking. But overall, oh, then this is ugly here. I messed up. I like dropped a stitch and then I had to go back and fix it, but I was in the middle of meetings and all that, so it looked kind of ugly. It just caught my eye. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. Don't worry about it. So I'll block this and then pin it aggressively and that'll be done. But that's another thing that's been sitting in my stash that I have not used and been wanting to use. Because it was a gradient, I was really struggling with what to make with it. I was like, I think it would look weird as a hat, look weird as socks. Didn't have enough to make a vest. I could have used it in like a color work thing. I was just struggling with what to make with it. I didn't want to do something fully stockinette because I thought I wanted, I don't know. So I settled on this and I think this is a great use of the yarn. So I'm excited to block it and see what it looks like. And this is very fallish. I actually have two jackets that I think would look really, really cute with this. They're both kind of fallish. But yeah, very, very happy to have this done. And honestly, like, this doesn't really bother me like as much as I thought it would. But I think about the alternative, which was like ripping back to like here and then starting the decreases sooner. I was like, absolutely not. So that's that. Okay, hi guys, just popping in to show you the blocked and finished solo scarf. As you can see, it grew quite a bit. I'm very happy with how it looks. And I feel like the little weird bit at the end, you can still tell the decreases are weird, but I don't think I noticed it as much as before I blocked it. So I feel like it looks cute, like tied like this. It ended up not being a super awkward length, at least that I think. It wasn't a super awkward length. It stretched out so nicely, and I can go like around like this and then still get a tie in here. This is, I think, my favorite way. So it ended up being very cute, very, very stretchy. Oh, it's still kind of bunching up down in the corner over here. But yeah, very happy with how it blocked out and how it looks. And so my previous plan of recording it during next video will not happen because I was able to get this blocked and show it to you guys before I was done filming this, or before this video was done being edited. So, oh, actually, one of my cats threw up on this as it was blocking. It like hairballed right on top of it. So I had to block it again and wash it again. The hairball, we caught it early. It came out very quickly, very easily. You can't even tell where it was. Sorry if that's nasty, if that grosses you out, but it is what it is. So that's it. My fully finished solo scarf with a little bit of that. So yeah, super happy with this. Super happy to have stash busted and gotten rid of this yarn that's been sitting in my stash for quite some time and have something that I like a lot. All right, on to whatever I was talking about next. That is all of the finished objects that I have. That is it. I already talked about my acquisitions in the middle of the podcast because I have already used them, but I do have one little trinket that I bought also at Argyle. I went crazy at Argyle. I have one thing that's really cool that I bought that I want to show you guys. And then I bought some, I keep losing my tapestry needles. I've had the same set like since I started knitting and I keep losing them. I bought a set of tapestry needles that are like hooked like this. Not that great for weaving in ends, but really nice for doing tubular or sewn bind offs. And then I bought this, which is a little magnetic. It's a little monstera leaf. It's very cute. It's magnetic. So it's for holding stitch markers and needles so that you don't lose them as much. And the cool thing about it is that on the back, it's a magnet within a magnet. This is magnetic, so you can take this off, and should you wish, you can magnetize it to the side of your bag so that then you have your little needle on the side. I mean, I don't think I would do this, but like if I'm sitting there working and I need it like on and off and on and off, great. It was an impulse buy. I was literally at the register checking out and I saw it. I was actually with my mom and she saw it. She was like, oh my God, Allie, look, a monstera. You love monsteras. I was like, I do love monsteras. And then I was like, oh, I was like, wait, this is cool. I was like, I want it actually. So I bought it. Okay, those are my acquisitions. That's my acquisition. Nothing else. I will not be talking about future plans because I keep deciding on a whim what to cast on. I have two big projects going on at once. Obviously that I talked about, the scarf and the sweater. So I won't be casting on anything big anytime soon. It's just going to be like more random stash busting accessories as I decide to cast them on. So no point talking about future plans when I myself don't even know. That brings us to the end of the formal knitting content. I have a couple of media review things to talk about that I'll talk about quickly. But if you were just here for the knitting, you can feel free to head out. No hard feelings. Thanks for watching and staying till the end. First things first, reality TV. I am watching The Traitors. I'm loving it. I'm loving Rob R. I'm sorry. I love him. I did watch all of Love Island of his season. I still love him. I'm sorry. He's doing so good. I hope he wins. And I really enjoyed all of the, well, what episode am I on? I'll just say I completely enjoyed watching I don't even know what episode it is, but him and Candace. I love reality TV. It gives you so much to think about. I enjoyed watching them interact with each other and learn all about it. Not learn all about it, but like just watch it and have opinions on it and see how they were playing their own games. Candace makes me sad. She's doing so good. How caught up am I? By the time this comes out, because today's Wednesday, tomorrow's Thursday, by the time this comes out, what I'm talking about, I'll be an episode behind. Because I haven't seen tomorrow night's episode, obviously, and there's no way this is coming out before tomorrow night. So if you're watching this live, I'm like an episode behind. I don't know. Candace was doing so good. I really liked her. I liked all of them together. She was doing so good. And she went too hard. She went too hard for Lisa Rinna. And I was like, at some point, like it's always with the traders, I'm like, you have to know when someone's a sinking ship and when to jump off and save your own game. And she didn't know how to do that. And Rob could have so easily fixed it, as most issues with men, could have simply fixed it by talking to Candace and been like, hey, Lisa's a sinking ship. I think we need to jump off. And I'm going to vote for her if it comes down to it. And then that would have kept their trust in line and they wouldn't have had to go against each other. But either way, Rob's doing great. Would love to see him win. Glad you know who was gone. Get him out of here. Best of the Traders. I'm loving it. Also on Thursday nights, I'm watching The Pit. I'm watching The Pit. I don't really watch a ton of medical dramas or really medical shows because I find them, I don't know, I like go to work at a hospital and when I come home, I like don't really want to think about a hospital. But my fiance really likes watching it. My mom really likes watching it. They like talking with me about it. So I've been watching The Pit. It's excellent. I enjoy watching it. It's a great show. It's a fun show. But yeah, it's nice. You know, it's a good show. It's very well done. It's nice watching a well done show. And then one more show thing. I recently started watching The Rookie. Even though it's been out for a couple of years, I was just getting a lot of TikToks about it. And I was like, oh, this looks kind of fun. This looks like a fun show to watch. So I started watching The Rookie. I'm like halfway done with season 2. Me and my fiance are watching it. It's fun. It's a nice mix of like funny and serious. It's a good entertaining show, and it's like still going on. There's a lot of stuff to consume. And then I just started catching up on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I can't even talk about it. Like I just finished the Below Deck crossover episodes. Like that's how far behind I am. So I don't even want to speak on it. And I watched it while I was doing work, so I was like half paying attention. I didn't watch it at work. I watched it while I was doing work on like a research project. So yeah, that's that. And then I guess last thing I'll talk about, I'm trying to think. There's really no sports. I mean, the Super Bowl, whatever. I was on shift though at the beginning, and I was like so tired because I had gone to a party the night before, and so I only got a couple hours of sleep. And then I was fine during the shift, and then I got off shift and I watched Bad Bunny halftime, which was excellent. And then I watched the third quarter, and then I like went to bed. I have no stake in the game. Go Seahawks. I like birds, so I wanted the Seahawks to win, and they won. But yeah, I went to a Super Bowl party for a total of like an hour, and then I went home and I fell asleep because I was so tired. I worked like a full day. I did watch the Bad Bunny halftime show, and it was incredible. I love Bad Bunny. I love a good Super Bowl halftime show that's like it was like a performance. It was like a whole set with a performance. I loved the message. I loved the music. Gaga was there. I love Gaga. Anyways. And then last thing I'll talk about, books. I have one book that I recently read. A very popular book. It's for my book club with my college friends. It is The Rachel Incident by, what's her name? Something O'Donoghue. Caroline O'Donoghue. Set in like early 2010s, 2000s. Ireland, about a girl and her new best friend and them trying to navigate like school and complex relationships. And I loved this book. This was such a good book. I have not enjoyed reading a book like this in a while. Just being like a really good story, really good storytelling that kept you captivated, explained everything well. I also find a lot of times I end up like not liking the main character. Because I do feel like a lot of it, especially if it's like an internal dialogue or just like written from the first person or written from a certain person's perspective, I end up complaining a lot, which is hilarious because I complain all the time. But for whatever reason, it annoys me when main characters just complain and constantly whine. But this is one of the few books that I've read where I really liked this main character. I really liked her. She was just like so well written. It touched on like a lot of really good social issues, like interesting social issues and just interesting like about relationships and dynamics and what makes a good relationship and all of these things. And then just she starts off and she's, I want to say like 20, maybe like 19, 20. So it's like early life, like, and it's her reflecting on this time in her life as she's older. She's in her 30s and she's reflecting back. So it's like very interesting. And then just like thinking, because I'm like around the age of like the writer. I'm like closer to how old the writer is than, like I'm closer to like 30 than I am to 19. So it was interesting me like reading it and then like thinking back on like my own life and the decisions that I made when I was younger. And just like the amount like where you think you're so mature, but you're really just incredibly, like still incredibly immature. Like looking back when I first started college and things like that, thinking like, oh, I'm so mature and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, like why did I do all that stuff? Like those are not the actions of a mature person. And that was kind of the theme of the book, and the reflection. It was really funny at times, very serious at other times, and had a really nice ending that like wraps up her story nicely, and then but doesn't wrap it up so nicely that it feels like forced and fake. All that to say, absolutely incredible book. I really loved it. I really enjoyed it. If you haven't read it and it sounds interesting to you, give it a try. I loved it. Also a great book. Well, I guess we're meeting for book club tomorrow night, so I can't even say if it was a great book for book club because we haven't discussed it yet. But also I'm worried I finished it like a month ago and then we're talking about it tomorrow. But yeah, I really liked it. It was a great book. that's it. Great news. I didn't get called in while recording this. I didn't get called in. There's still enough daylight. Thank God the sun's staying up longer because it used to set at like 4 p.m. And that greatly reduced my hours that I could record and utilize daylight. So yeah, all in all good. Got a little stuff done. This was a long one. I'm not even gonna say I'm sorry, like it is what it is. But yeah, hope you're staying warm. It's finally getting a little bit warmer here. Hope you're staying warm. Hope your snow is melted if you got hit by the snowstorm. And happy knitting, happy crafting, happy almost Valentine's Day. Hope I don't get called in on Valentine's Day. That would suck. And enjoy your craft and your activities and all that. Yeah, happy Valentine's Day. Happy knitting. See you guys in the next video. Bye.